Yeah, no, that sounds good. I'm just going to talk about it right now, actually. Oh, hello. This is actually the recording for the audio because for today we're talking about a game all about smartphones. You know that because you read the intro to this video. You saw the thumbnail and you know what I'm going to talk about today. We are talking about a game that I discovered on the 2019 Dice Tower Cruise back when it was just the original Cosmodrome version. And it was kind of like a holy grail. It was kind of like the game I was trying to find, the El Dorado of gaming. And I couldn't get my hands on it. Tried to get my hands on it. And finally, here we are talking about Smartphone Inc. and the expansion, the update 1.1. So we're going to talk about all things presentation, all things about the game itself, and then we're going to talk about a little bit about the expansion and what it adds and if you should pick it up or not. But Smartphone Inc., let's find out how to play this unique economy phone selling game right now. All right, so let's do a flyover of the main board here. This is the Smartphone Inc. board. You have the price board over here with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have the different map areas with all the different places, all of them represented by the demand for what phones want to be bought in those countries. You have a research and industry board over here. You also have the tech board down here, the technology board. And what you'll do is you'll take these and you will fill them in these slots based on the matching symbol, either front side or back side. It's suggested the first time to play without the corners on it so that you can play a little bit more straightforward. And you'll put these in here and then you'll take the bonuses that go with them and sit those in those slots. That way the first person to get that bonus at the end of the game will score the points associated with it. Plus the cost will be there. So notice that the 4G is normally 6 points to buy and it's worth 12 points at the end of the game. Here it's only 5. Once someone buys access to this technology, it becomes cheaper for everyone else. Granted, they get the bonus. Now, what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to get your company and you're going to have certain secret power that's going to come with it. You're going to start on a certain amount of points on the actual player board because points are the second determining factor for who goes first in the game. You're also going to get your own special tile. Now, everyone else, and including you, will get these 2 tiles. And what you do with them on your turn is you're going to lay them out into a puzzly shape. You're going to try to figure out, okay, I need to get these certain actions showing because whatever actions are showing are what you're going to get to take advantage of during the different phases of the game, which are listed up there. Now, the thing is, though, you might think, well, why don't you just show them all? Well, if you cover other actions, you also gain an extra phone during the produce phones phase for each ones that you cover. So 1, 2 are being covered, then 3, 4. So I would make 4 phones here. I would have 2 trucks moving. I would have 2 research symbols, and I would have 1 technology symbol. I also would not mess with the prices. This raises the prices of my phones. Price determines player order. Lower player order goes first. So raising prices might seem like a good idea because it's how you're going to gain points, but it does put you lower in turn order, and at the beginning of the game when no one has technology, that can be kind of tricky. You also have the ability to lower your price right here. You're going to choose between these, plus you have access to your own special one. The only rule about these is they have to at least overlap 1 and at most overlap 4. That's the most you could do. This is the least you could do is 1. You can also put your special power over, your special tile over. This just has to overlap 2 places. This does not count when you're overlapping to gain the extra building, the extra phone production, whereas this would be 2 extra phones, this would be 1 extra phone. This is not 2 extra phones when you do that. But you do have the ability to say, okay, I'm going to cover this up, or I'm going to put here, and now I have all of these symbols showing. Well, then you go in turn order and figure everything out. You reveal, then you raise or lower prices. You then produce the phones that you produce by sliding them from this slot over to this slot in your little organizer. That's right, everything stays in the organizer. It's great. These are phones. This is kind of a resource used to denote stuff you're working on. Notice it's bars of like, can you hear me now sort of bars. And then you have these little towers. And North Africa is where Oasis starts. So we will always start here. And you'll notice they're on the board, the actual color where they start. So North Africa will start for the Oasis company. Then we go through and do technology. You'll take one of these technology tiles for each of these showing that you have, and typically you're only ever going to have one showing, but you're going to gain these tiles one at a time. You'll take one, and if you don't have one showing, you'll take one of these tokens, which just gives you an extra phone during the phone production phase. You can also choose not to spend your special power and get an extra phone during the production phase. You're then going to do research. You'll spend the amount of research listed to gain these abilities. If you meet the threshold and you're the first one, you'll take that bonus, which we mentioned for the points, and then you will have access to this technology, which means you can sell phones to people who have that demand. Normally, when you sell phones, you have to sell it based on your price and what people will pay. So at most, this person will only pay 3 for a phone. This one 5, this one 6. And that goes all across the board depending on who has access to it. So if you have a tower here in India, you can sell phones to these people based on their demand. You can also sell to these purple ones based on the technology you have. They'll pay whatever price you ask, but they'll only pay based on the technology you have. So here, 2 is a minimum. So if you can sell for 2, you can sell this person a phone. And then 4 or 5, and then all the technologies here in China. That's what the technologies do. You gain access to those abilities plus the ability to sell phones. Next is you can expand. The number here, it costs you 4. So let's just say you're in India. You follow the line. If I want to increase my map playability and get into China, I would spend 4 trucks worth. That would be these showing. And then I would be able to place a token out here to show that I'm now here in China and I can sell phones to China. If you don't have enough, you can instead, let's just say I only had 2. I could place 2 now, and when I do get 3, I could pull these away, or excuse me, when I do get 4, I could pull those away and then put my tower out there later. You then sell phones based on demand. And then you'll take, the thing about that though is that it will fill up, and so it is tricky, and that's what the area control kind of becomes. You have to kind of lock down where you're going to sell and be careful about your network. Then you're going to produce the amount of money based on how many phones you sell, and it gives you a nice chart here based on your amount. So if you're selling them at $4 a piece or 4 a piece, and you sold 10 phones, that's $40 or 40 points. You'll then track your points on the points tracker. Then you're also going to do a slight majorities tracker here. Wherever the furthest tower to the right is, the scoring will be whoever sold the most in that area, and that will be for all of these. You'll then play 5 rounds, do that, rinse and repeat. The person with the most points at the end wins the game. Now let's take a look at what comes in the expansion. So the major change is this 2 to 3 player board. It's a smaller board that does have just a smaller map of the world on here, and it's got fewer spots for technologies, but it's made to play kind of a smaller player count. But basically the same thing occurs here. The other things that this come with are 4 other modules. Essentially, the directives module is the big one here. This is a set of kind of goals that you can shoot for to try to gain during the game. You'll gain the points for them. Depending on the player count, there's a certain amount out there, but you can claim one a round, and once you've claimed one, you can flip it face down and you can claim another one another round. There are also CEOs. These are little figures that you'll put out there. It's the guy from the side of the original box. You'll put those out there in certain areas, and some of the new technology cards, which are right here, have to do with your CEO. And depending on where your CEO is, you can activate this power there. Other technology cards feature these mini upgrades, which is single spot upgrades, which is nice to have. But that's the majority of what it comes with, but that's a lot of playability when it comes to what this is. It's a new map, a whole new way to play, get extra in-game points, as well as a way to position yourself on the board depending on where your CEO moves around to, and you can use technologies that are specifically available to that CEO region. So that's what comes with the expansion there. So that is Smartphone Inc. and what comes in the expansion. Now, let's break this down. When I do a review, we usually cover the ground in several kind of systematic ways. We talk about the presentation and table presence. Now, as you walk past this, you're going to look down and you're going to see kind of a pretty generic board. You're going to see, kind of you might think it's pandemic, actually. You might see cubes on places. But aside from that, the actual table presence when they walk past, that's a little bit, okay, it's fine. But the presentation of the direct user interface and then the generic user interface that everyone touches is incredible. What do I mean by that? Well, yes, it is plastic cubes and little 3-bar reception towers and little towers, But what it does is it takes those cubes and it puts them in this little cell phone container. Now, normally you have a divider that may or may not come with the game, in which you take them all out and sit them on the table. Not this one. You leave everything in the divider that it comes with for each color, each player color. That's brilliant. I don't know any other game that does that, where you get your pieces and you keep them in the divider. I think that is such a it's such a simple thing to do, but it works so well with this game that when you get your little cell phone in pieces, it's all ready to go. And then later on, when you decide to make certain amounts of phones, you just move them over from this box to this box. Such a win. Now, this is updated from the original version. I don't seem to remember there being a slot to hold your upgrades and your technology and upgrade holders, whereas in this one it does have that. And so just the thought process that went into the presentation of this game is great. The recessed main board is phenomenal. Having just little slots to stick your pieces in really goes a long way. So really, really, really well done on presentation of this game. I love it. I love the way it looks. I love the way it plays. Now, as far as the new map, it's nice having a smaller map to kind of work with. It's nice having the different technologies to use for different versions of the game. If you're going to play the game repetitively, you can play with all the different technologies and benefit from that. And that's such a plus, right? Also, the new CEO mechanic. That's a great one as well. But let's talk about the actual mechanics of the game itself when we break it down. So we talked about how to play. What I love about this game is the total unique way in which you select your actions. I can't think of any other game that does the two paddle system, or where you flip your paddles over and slide them around and get your little puzzle done, to where whatever you have showing is what actions you get, and whatever you have covered up is how many also extra phones you build. That alone is just so smart. I don't know if it's ever been done before, and if it has, well, I've missed it, but this is just really brilliant. I love selecting actions. Each time you select your actions, it becomes a nice little puzzle that you're trying to maximize your actions. So even if you get upgrades, you still have to think about, okay, how can I maximize these to work in my favor? I love the way that works. It's just so very well done. Now, as far as the rest of the game, when it comes to moving the phases along, each phase makes perfect sense. You're going to set your puzzle, you're going to reveal, you're going to raise or lower prices, you're then going to do the different phases, whether it be research or in the technology, or whether it be the trucks, and then you start selling your phones. Everything flows boom, 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 to where this game plays very quickly. It's only 5 rounds, but it plays incredibly quickly because each of those phases is so smooth and intuitive how it works. So I love the speed at which this game plays. You're talking about a kind of a crunchy Euro economic game with raising and lowering prices, and kind of raising and lowering prices to hopefully you lower them to get in there and sell faster, or you can raise them and knowing that you have the run on the technology and the run on the area of the board to know that you can get your phones out there to sell them. It's so much better to think about that. So I just love how the economy of this game works. Now, as far as the expansion, like I say, having that extra map is great. I will say this, I always joke about types of expansions, right? You know, I talked about this when I talked about Stonemaier games, that some of them feel like app upgrades versus like an actual new expansion. This is called the Update 1.1, but it's much more than just an upgrade expansion. Yes, you do get some new things in the sense of you get more of the same, like you get more technology, more things like that. But you also get that entire new sideboard, and you also get those the CEO mechanics. So there's a whole different mechanic in there. So the question naturally becomes, okay, Brian, you sold me on the first game. In fact, I'm going to tell you, go get Smartphone Inc. Stop what you're doing right now and go get Smartphone Inc. It is a wonderful game. It's fantastic. Now, should I go out and get the expansion? Absolutely. Of course you should get the expansion. There's literally no reason not to get the expansion for this game if you like the original. Even if you don't like the original, this one adds enough content to where it might push you over the edge. So I'm a huge fan of this and the expansion. Go get both of these today. I cannot say enough good things about them. I mean, there's a reason that this is in Arcane Wonders, and it's just such a it's in the Dice Tower Essentials line. I mean, there's a reason, but I cannot stress enough how good this game is. I've been thinking about it for 2 years now, and finally, almost 2 years now, finally got my hands on it and love this game. So go do yourself a favor. If you're a fan of Euros and economic games, go get Smartphone Inc. and go get the expansion for it. Hope that clears everything up for you. I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. And until next time, we'll see you right here.